Morning, good afternoon, good evening, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Vanessa Tita from ICLI Africa, and it is with great pleasure for me to welcome you all on behalf of ICLI Africa to this amazing virtual Logs for Africa session titled Uncovering Hidden Flows in Our Cities. And also, it is with great excitement that today we are launching the Hidden Flows exhibition presented by ICLI Africa in partnership with Rise Africa, the Nature of Cities, Stellenbosch University, Kwame Nkrumah University of Technology, and supported by two amazing projects called LIRA, which stands for Leading Integrated Research for Agenda 2030 in Africa, as well as the SEMCCA project, which stands for Scaling Up and Empowering Movements for Climate Change Advocacy. So in this session, we will share some insights from the project coordinators and key participating photographers. And of course, we will share our thinking of the way forward through these photographs for policy dialogue. So please engage with the Q&A session on this platform and send as many questions and comments as possible. Again, thank you so much for joining us today. I will now hand over to Paul to tell you a little bit about ICLI, the house rules, and of course, to kickstart and take forward the conversations. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa, and welcome everybody. We hope you will introduce yourself in the chat, can share your interest in photography, what has drawn you into this session, as well as to see where you are in the world. Again, we're very excited to be launching the Hidden Flows exhibition, which has been about a year in the making through various projects. We have a very full launch schedule, hearing initially from Vanessa, myself, and Jahan on the background of the Hidden Flows exhibition process before we hear from our curators and our photographers. We have Fawaz Oyedeji, Esther Nsapu, Sam Renders, Katumba Badru, and Rehab El Dalil, who have each contributed fantastic stories into our exhibition. We'll then hear from our curators, Christopher Proctor and Carmen Bouillet, on the process of drawing out some of the further meaning before we reflect on the specific projects that will take these photographs further, hearing from Sandra Bortma Kushitur and Vanessa Tite. So with that, I will help to moderate our journey. And we thank you again for joining us. I'll hand over to Jahan to give us a sense of the Hidden Flows exhibition.
Thank you, Paul. Welcome to all participants and speakers. I am absolutely delighted to be here today. So the Hidden Flows photo exhibition forms part of the roadmap to Rise Africa 2021. The Rise Africa Summit brings together thinkers, doers, and enablers, and promotes art and creative expression and other ways of knowing to inspire action for sustainable cities. The Rise Africa roadmap has taken form in the way of monthly activations that explore themes such as food, mobility, gender, and SDG localization. And this brings us to this month's theme of urban metabolism as showcased through the Hidden Flows photo exhibition. So why Hidden Flows? The intention of the Hidden Flows photography exhibition was to visualize the urban metabolism in our cities through photography and storytelling. Urban metabolism being the flow of resources such as waste, water, food, energy, and mobility, and how these resources are accessed and moved through our cities. Resource flows are often understood in terms of formal hard infrastructure, so everything that you can see. However, so much of the way that resources move in which often go undetected by decision makers and are therefore rendered invisible. So the Hidden Flows aims to uncover these informal flows and the many processes on the ground which play a vital role in sustaining our cities. In the process, as you will see in the exhibition and during the photographic discussion, it also gives insight into how resources are in relation to other urban dimensions, such as social and community interactions, livelihoods and income generation, gender equality, and other urban phenomena, such as urban flooding. This is important because these interactions are often missed by hard data, statistics, and urban plans, which are required for formal city planning processes. These are used by decision makers to inform city development. Yet these informal flows are so important to creating sustainable cities. So this exhibition and this photography dialogue forms a backdrop and a basis for knowledge generation and alternative ways in which to engage diverse perspectives. The Hidden Flows photography process was executed in 2 phases: an Instagram competition and commissioned photographers who followed 5 resources in various African cities. And Instagram has provided an excellent platform that enabled us to engage citizens and photographers in various locations across African cities, and they shared impressive visual stories of their cities and their everyday lived experiences. So after a 5-month process, we are very excited to launch this photographic exhibition. So please do have a look at the webpage and the link that was provided in the chat, and do share your thoughts and comments and ask questions. And so with that, I will hand over back to Paul to start this session. Thanks.
Thanks, Jahan. It's been wonderful to see a concept turn into reality, and I think everyone who's been working on the project is very excited by this. And so as you delve through the different stories on the exhibition platform, you can look into each of these images shared through Instagram by participating photographers, many of whom have joined us on Instagram. So thank you very much for joining us here, and we look forward to engaging further on the motivations behind your images. We'd like to dive a bit more deeply into some of the featured stories on the site. And so we'd like to hear from Fawaz Oyedeji on his story, Light is Good, reflecting on the community of Olodo and their many energy choices that they make use of. So Fawaz, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, wherever you are.
Fawaz, your microphone is very low. If you can speak a bit closer.
Can you hear me now?
A bit better.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. So, my name is Fawaz Oyedeji. My work is focused on looking at diverse socio-cultural experience in my region, and currently I'm based in Lagos. So the project I worked on for this, I focused my attention mainly on those who energy and other methods of generating power serves a crucial role in their livelihood and their business and the way they go about their daily lives. It's important because looking at growth in any country, local development is an essential part in a way to measure growth in any community. And in order to successfully enhance this meaningful development, effective strategies need to take place in grassroots levels too, apart from the city. And my experience on the field while I was telling stories is I noticed a lot of the people on ground were quite interested in what I was doing, and they were quite open because they are well aware of the role power play in their life and how much the government failed at giving them some sort of stable electricity system, which doesn't exist in Nigeria where I'm from. And a lot of people there are forced to have generators, which usually costs the same amount as what's a minimum wage cost in the city. While in the area, I tried looking at different ways in which these resources take shape within the community, and I was able to do it because I'm hoping it could sort of create some sort of awareness and understanding of the prevalent energy system and the role it plays in certain people's livelihood. Thank you.
Thank you, Fawaz. And I think what's intriguing here is seeing how different energy sources overlap for different activities. And so as you explore the imagery, we see very different energies for cooking, the use of gasoline, a liquid gas plant is featured, and then the big question about energy systems, where we see these big power lines coming past a community. So when we invest in big power plants, are they benefiting the communities in the local area? Thanks so much. We're still awaiting joining by Esther, but I'd like to turn to Sam Renders, who has explored food flows in the city of Cape Town. Sam, if you can join us.
Sure, just turning on my video. Hi. I explored the flow of food from across the continent and how it ends up in Cape Town, which is right down at the bottom of the continent. When I actually look back at the work, it was interesting to me to realize that it is a kind of continuation of actually of a theme that I work on continually, and that is of what is home. And what this project does is it looks at how, irrespective of governments or irrespective of cost or any and all of the kind of restrictions that can be put in place between, say, in this case, what you're looking at now, Baobab, how that can be restricted in terms of getting from the north to the south, how it makes its way here anyway. Because at the end of the day, things like comfort and a taste of home is way more important than, for most people, more important than almost anything else. And so where there's a will, there's a way. And I think that is quite, generally speaking, something that us as Africans do pretty well. We make a plan, and if it's something that you want to have happen, you will. So I explored how different foods from different cultures and different countries made their way to Cape Town. I spoke specifically with a man whose nickname is Tanganyika. He's from Burundi, and he is one of many salesmen of food from other countries here in Cape Town. His is definitely more established than most. He has an actual storefront. Most of it is of course sold a lot more informally, but he was just really, really interesting to speak to, and almost nothing in his shop is brought in the formal sense, in a kind of import-export sense. It is all bought from because people know of his reputation, they know what he sells, they know what his clients like, and most of the food is in fact bought by his clients. So whenever they have extra space in bags and friends that are coming this way, or to a friend of his in Johannesburg, they pile it full of whatever they can, and it ends up at his place, and he then sells it on from there. So it's really kind of, it speaks to the strength and resilience of people in general, the way things are, how things are done in the continent in general, and how that flow is there if you want it to be. So it couldn't fit more perfectly within the topic if you possibly tried. It's a hidden flow in one sense, but if you go looking for it, it's right there staring at you. But hidden in many other respects. It's certainly hidden from the formal sector in most ways. So that is what I did. And I photographed everything by default, and because of circumstance, it was photographed all on a phone, which is also how most people would photograph their surroundings. So not with big fancy equipment. And the notes that accompany the food are things that, little tidbits and things that I kind of learned from Tanganyika about some of the food that I didn't know about. And I try to reference things like smell and taste and texture, and a couple of funny little stories here and there, and his disdain for kind of the superfood, say, for example, that we may now associate with something like baobab powder, and how the hipsters are using it in their smoothies, but actually it is really just, you know, a comfort food for most. Please shout if you have any questions.
Thanks so much, Sam. I think what struck us very much about Sam's reflection is that it captures the cultural nature of food. When talking about improving food systems and improving sustainability of our food systems, a lot of people overlook the very cultural nature and a lot of the meaning behind food. And so these are beautifully captured in the notes and the anecdotes from Tanganyika, but also in the sharp contrasts of these still lifes. So please do explore further.
You can, you know, you can improve food, make it more nutritious. You can take a foodstuff, whichever one you pick, and make it more nutritious, make it more easily available for people, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, people are always going to go back to what they grew up with, what is their cultural food. So you can't ignore that link to culture. And if you do, you do it at your peril.
Great, thanks so much, Sam. We'd like to shift also with a focus on food, but also energy and public space, to hear from Rihab El-Dalil, who took images in Cairo. Rihab, if you can join us.
Okay, hi everyone. I need access to acceptance to start my video, if that's gonna be possible.
Should be able to now.
Okay, perfect. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Rahab, and I'm based in Egypt between Cairo and Sinai. And what I've decided to explore through this story is something that I have long thought that was gone in Cairo. And I have been longing for it, actually. But as a response from the COVID, it has actually came back. So for the past 10 years, Egyptians, specifically in Cairo, have been really attached to capitalist facilities, right? Malls, cafes, and really neglected the main parts that actually connects people together. That is how people could stay in touch together through the streets and through simple activities. But because of the COVID, all of the restaurants and cafes have shut down. And I found that Egyptians have simply reclaimed the streets by using food and street lights and neon lights, of course, in order to keep that connection. Egyptians are social, super social, and the way to maintain their well-being is to stay connected. And because they haven't been able to connect through the different facilities that they have been used to use the past 10 years, they have simply went back to connecting through the streets and using neon lights to signal for food cars that are simply just normal cars that people have decided to transform into food and beverage cars as a way for people to hang out around, and the simple use of street lights for people to be able to see each other and keep connecting. And that is something that has kind of retrieved my own faith in Cairo, because I've always thought that Cairo is now, such an ill-spirited place, because there's no simple way to keep connections with people. You have to pay a lot of money in order to go to restaurants and so on. But that is not true anymore. Even though the lockdown has been lifted, people are still connected in a way that they would just simply go out in the streets, hang out beside a food car, and drink something and just enjoy their time, and really appreciate that idea of keeping connection despite any economic or health issues during the past months.
Sorry, Rehab, I think there was a bit of interference there. Thank you very much for sharing. What we found really moving about the images is this reclamation of space and a return to a way of cultural engagement, which many of us have seen as the opposite because of hard lockdowns. And then the neon as that signifier that there is activity and food, very powerful. And I think your piece has captured very well the aspirations of the vendors, captured, for example, in the Sorby brothers who want to open a new store. So it's been very exciting to see.
Thank you. It's now like this new thing that is blossoming, and basically, yeah, where there are neon lights in Cairo, you're gonna definitely find food and drinks and a good time, which is amazing.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for sharing. And I see that we are joined now by Esther Nsapu, who has taken photographs in Bukavu in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And I hope Esther can join us now to share.
Hello, bonjour. Hello. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. And can you turn your video on, Esther?
Alors, j'arrive pas à me connecter avec la vidéo parce que I'm trying to connect with the video, but my connection is really, really poor.
Okay. If it doesn't allow, then that's okay.
Ok. Je peux parler? Okay, can I speak? Can I take the floor?
Please do.
Alors. Okay. Allô, vous m'entendez? Can you hear me?
Yes, please continue.
Ok. Alors, je vais vous parler des... So I would like to talk about my project related to Lake Kivu, which is really the link between the city of Bukavu and the surrounding rural areas around the lake. I worked on this project thinking about the inhabitants of the city of Bukavu, because they get their food from the rural areas. For instance, livestock, vegetables come from rural areas, and to sell and to bring this food to the city, they use boats that have engines to get to the city, which is not an easy task through the road, because sometimes the road, there are issues with insecurity on the road, but also if the road has not been maintained properly. This is why most vendors use the boat to get to Bukavu, but it's not easy because you often have people who drown. You also have insecurity on the lake, and the vendors that are taking these trips are women most of the time, and they take these risks and they spend several hours on the lake to feed their families. This is the business activities that you see between the city and the villages. And when you get to the city, you have the issue with taxes, because these vendors are overtaxed. There are several tax services that are taxing these small vendors that don't have much money, and they're having trouble fending for themselves because they have to pay taxes that are actually higher than their capital and their revenue. This is why I was interested by this topic, to see how these rural families are able to feed the city of Bukavu, not only one village, but it's actually all the villages around the lake. There are several villages around the lake, and what they use is these boats that you can see on the pictures, what we call boats in French as well, with engines, but also a larger boat. So this is what is currently going on, and this is what you can see on my images. And there's also an issue. I talked about the fact that sometimes people drown when using these boats, but there's also the issue of money, because a lot of people use these small boats because it's cheaper. It's cheaper, but at the same time, there's more insecurity because, like I said, you have people who drown, people who die, but also sometimes you lose goods in the lake. You lose your food that you're about to sell in the lake. This is what struck me. I think it's a very interesting topic because you can see this traffic around the lake that continues. And thanks to this traffic, you have people who are able to eat, and you have people who travel from the village to the city, and then from the city back to the village in one day. So this was really interesting to me. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I'd be happy to answer them.
Merci bien, Esther. Thank you so much for joining us, and it's wonderful to hear your take on the story that is so beautifully shared. I think we've highlighted the quote here from what you said in one of our meetings, which is the city's economy revolves around the boats and the people, and the fact that the lake is this conduit for bringing food from many spaces to Bukavu faster than roads is really important to flesh out. So thank you very much for your insights. And please, just a reminder for everyone participating, feel free to throw questions or comments into the chat, and our photographers can reflect on them. But otherwise, we'll also be planning a few further engagements for deeper connection. I'd like to invite Katumba Badru to join us for our final story reflection. Katumba, can you put on your camera and microphone?
Hello.
Hi, we can hear you well. And your video?
Yes. Hello.
Hi. Please proceed. Are you able to share your video?
No, not really. Okay. Like.
Please go ahead.
Okay, I'm just using your screen or something. Okay.
We can hear you well. Will you share the insights from your photo essay?
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Badru Katumba, and I'm a freelance photojournalist based in Uganda, Kampala. And, I worked on this topic of trash, my trash, your trash, because every day in our lives, we all use plastic at one point. You might not be able to use like a bottle, but we all use like so many other small detailed plastic that we end up disposing of safely or not. But I was trying to not to blame anyone, but to trace the way we use plastic and how it affects us in the long run. So in the due course, I looked at what the dangers of plastic, for example, flooding, and also clogging in channels and causing flooding, plus also looking out for some people that are gaining out of this trash that is just plastic that is just dumped anyhow or collectively dumped. So there are a number of people that are recollecting this and selling them to make a living out of this. And there are also, people that are coming up with innovative ways to, to repackage or to use these plastics. For example, there is a group called Reform Africa, and it's based in PG, about 45 minutes out of Kampala, Uganda's capital. And it's mainly, it's formed of 3, young girls that, are collecting because in Uganda, huge less is collected on things like polythene bags. For them, they realized, okay, this was happening, and they started collecting these polythene bags and making some, nice, new, beautiful things like earrings and bags. So those are some of the people that some of the people that are reusing or some of these plastics. And there are also like other people that are using, are calling on, us, the Africans or Ugandans or all over the world to rethink and go back to our roots, to use natural stuff like roots. And I've seen some people also are now calling on, are using leaves of trees to make plates for fast foods, and glasses. But these ones are using mainly are collecting simple grass, and they are making straws out of them, and they are selling them to Ugandans and other countries in the US. They have a market also in Denmark, in Germany. So it's upon us to look at this in a bigger context and come up with innovative ways on how to save ourselves and our planet for the future, because no one will. So, I mean, plastic is so cool in making life easy, but in the long run, like fish is affected, and cities get flooded. So it's upon us and every individual to come up with innovative ways or simple ways to on plastic. My topic. Wanted to see what the government is doing upon this, and I tried to sample from 3 different countries. I went to Rwanda, I went to Kenya to see how their government is. I didn't do much details because I didn't have the time and finances to stay that long to do a due work, but I sampled on how their governments have come up with the laws and which things they are doing to to reduce on plastic and waste management.
Thanks,
So
Katumba.
that's my topic basically. Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you so much. And I think what's really what excited us about this story is you capture so many dimensions of the plastic story. There's urban flooding caused by litter. There's who is collecting and making use of the plastic. There are the entrepreneurs who are creating, for example, the bag you see in this image, as well as alternatives to plastic. And that was a really interesting journey that the story takes us on. So again, we invite you to explore this in more depth on the platform.
Thank you.
Now, thank you, Katumba. We'd now like to invite Chris and Carmen to reflect on the curatorial process, what strikes you about the overall exhibition that's been put together of these 5 key stories, as well as the Instagram collection from that Jahan has reflected on. So Chris, if you can start us off and then hand over to Carmen.
Right. Hi. I
think what's interesting to note about these stories, and I'm particularly talking about the visual inquiries done by the 5 storytellers, is that the brief they got from us was essentially to use photography and whatever other medium they choose to tell the story of a resource flow in their cities. We prompted them with water, food, energy, mobility. They could choose one, they could choose several, they could choose all or none. But essentially we told them to go out there and find the stories that they wanted to tell. We obviously asked them for images. We wanted around 15 to 20 images, as well as an introduction that they could use to kind of give us more context. And we wanted the stories to be informative. So, must be honest, I was quite jealous of the assignment. It's kind of a dream assignment for photojournalists interested in telling these kinds of stories. And what came back is, at first glance, stylistically, aesthetically, and content-wise, quite different. But I think what struck me is once we started looking at the stories together and figuring out how to lay them out, we realized how interconnected they were, much like the resources. It was really hard to say this story is about food or this story is about water. What it came together was that food and mobility and water and energy, they all need each other to keep our cities alive. I think these stories are a testament to the diversity and dynamism of our continent. And I hope that these photographic dialogues change the way you think of our cities in the same way it has to me. So please enjoy the work of these very talented storytellers and let us know what you think. Thank you.
Merci Chris. Je vais continuer en français.
So, Chris, thank you very much. I'm going to continue in French. I would like to thank our 5 photographers that really gave the tone to this show. Thank you, Esther, Sam, Rihab, Katumba, and all that participated to this exhibition. And Joanne Fawaz, Vanessa, and I am the curator at Inclusive, which is a national platform of exchange between persons that want to enhance, ameliorate nature and environment for people. And in fact, the challenges are after the curatorial work that was done by Jahan, Paul, by all our crew, is to think how to put all this online and to enable to people from all over the world to have access to these narratives through internet, in fact. So, well, we want to underline this new possibility that is opening to us during this period that enables us to share widely our exhibition that of things that happen in physical space. And if it was, for example, possible to have this exhibition physically, to meet these people physically, these photographers, these authors, but it's nice. But what this enables us, this virtual support enables us to reach to a wider audience. And I hope that you will feel the same emotions and that it will speak to you the same way. And definitely we also help to reduce our carbon footprint. We don't have to print and we don't have to travel to come to an exhibition and to participate, etc. So I invite you all to delve and to discover this exhibition. And thank you to Karen Singawa, which is the designer of Nature City. And
plonger voilà, dans les univers et dans les histoires de tous ces photographes à travers la mise en valeur de leurs photos, de leurs textes, aussi des sons. Il y a des réflexions écrites également sur le show. Donc voilà, j'espère que vous allez apprécier. Merci beaucoup à tout le monde.
Merci beaucoup, Carmen. It has been, as you've said, a great journey in trying to stay true to what the photographers have shared. So with that, we have presented what's in the exhibition, but what excites us at ICLEI Africa and the projects that we're working on is the potential of taking the ideas and the imagery in the exhibition forward to make a difference in how we think about our cities and how we can guide decision-making to specifically notice and pay attention to what is often overlooked or taken for granted. So with that, I'd like to welcome the principal investigator of the Inclusive Metabolism project, Sandra Bortema, to reflect on how we can make further meaning from this exhibition. Thanks, Sandra.
Thank you, Paul. Hi, everyone. It's good afternoon to you all. And thank you so much for joining us today. It's really a pleasure to hear and see the photos, coming to life. And I'm really grateful that we had participants from different countries submitting photos via Instagram, and then the exceptional work of the photographers that we engaged. Why we use this approach is because in research, there's a method called photoethnography. And as part of the project that we are doing, we wanted to involve people, for people to tell the stories of their cities themselves. This is a way of empowering individuals within the communities and also empowering individuals within society to tell the stories that they experience and how they conceptualize everyday experiences with the resources of their cities. When you look at the photos that have been submitted, what strikes me most importantly is that it talks about the recognition or the importance of informality in cities. You would see that from Tanzania to Uganda to Congo to Accra to Cape Town, informality plays a major role in providing resources and essential services to cities. So in our next steps, what we're going to do is to find ways to support the informal sector and to also provide a dialogue that can protect the integrity and efficiency of the sector. What you also notice from the pictures, that the pictures also portray problems. So you've got problems of waste, problems of inefficiency in the food sector in particular, food pouring over the boats and all of that. You've got problems of insufficient electricity. So the photos also portray these problems, and it's a way of depicting what challenges urban residents face in their daily lives in the cities that they find themselves in Africa. So the photos can also be, we're going to use them as a mode of portraying challenges that cities experience. What's also very exciting about these photos is that they also show initiatives, solutions that individuals are implementing in cities to solve the problems that they face. So although the photos portray problems, they also portray solutions that can be shared with policymakers and city officials and planners. So for the next steps, what we want to use these photos for is to facilitate dialogues with city planners and policymakers in different cities across Africa. Next week, we have the first phase of these dialogues in Kumasi, and we'll be communicating and interacting with market coordinating councils and how the problems that we saw in the informal food sector can be solved through local solutions with these policymakers in Kumasi. We also have other programs, other policy dialogues that we have planned for next year in Cape Town. And my hope is that in other cities that shared photos in this exhibition, if you want us to hold a positive dialogue with these photos in your city, kindly contact us and be very happy to hold such dialogues in the cities with you and also for you. So thank you everybody for joining this exhibition, and we look forward to interacting with you further.
Thank you so much, Sandra. I think you've captured perfectly the motivation behind this and how we can draw in qualitative understanding to our city and really demonstrate the essential nature of informality. I'd like to hand over now to my colleague Vanessa Tite, who is leading a new project called SEMCCA, which is looking at movement building for climate action. And what's been wonderful about the experience on the Inclusive Metabolism project sponsored by the LIRA 2030 grant is it is actively seeking how to build collaboration across organizations and researchers in the continent. And so we're very excited that this project is just beginning and can help to take forward some of the further ideas coming out of the project. So Vanessa, please do continue.
Okay, thanks, Paul. I would like to share a little bit about this project, which is amazing that we are currently implementing here at Italy. And just to remind everyone, it stands for Scaling Up and Empowering Movements for Climate Change Advocacy. So basically with this project, we will focus on different things, most of which this session, this Hidden Flows session has been talking about: food, water, mobility, and waste. And it's really just designed to support the development of enabling conditions for civil and social participation in climate action. So now with this project, we want to identify and use innovative mechanisms that will foster that strong and effective collaboration between people-powered civil society groups and their local government. So I also just want to tell you a little bit about the approach that we are taking. Paul, could you please put up the tree? This approach that we are taking is called the movement tree, which is you should see now on your screen. So basically, right at the root of a tree, we will be working very closely with the civil society organizations that have a strong focus on climate advocacy around a particular theme, for example, food or water. So we really just want to provide them with as much as possible support in terms of communication and advocacy and mobilization. Then we want to move up to the connective tissue of the tree, which is basically to connect these civil society groups with other groups within their area and that are perhaps working on the same goal and potentially formulate a strong movement for climate action using these civil society groups. And of course, in addition to this connective tissue, we want to improve effective processes for engagement between local government and these civil society groups if they are not working together already. And last but not least, we will move up to the top part of the tree, which is to bear a fruit in the form of lessons and recommendations and the actual transformation in terms of improved collaboration of all project collaborators. So just to conclude, as I mentioned earlier on, I think this Hidden Flows session and exhibition is really one powerful and innovative approach that can be used to building a one-of-a-kind movement through projects like LIRA that Sandra spoke about and the SEMCCA project. And I think these projects could really provide that opportunity to shed some light on complex issues and hidden flows of resources, which may be sometimes underrepresented by the media, or it may be difficult to just grasp them through because they use different and difficult terminologies around them. And I think I should stop here in the interest of time, and I will hand over back to you, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. So that brings us to the end of our sharing. We had envisioned this to be an hour to really just share our excitement for this and give you time to explore the exhibition. But that said, I think we have time for 2 questions if anyone would like to raise their hands in the attendees. Otherwise, I think we're also happy to close and let the exhibition be out for a while for engagement before we reconvene. So I'll pause for 30 seconds if there are any questions. But seeing none, I'm very happy to hand back to Vanessa to close us off. And thank you very much from my side for joining us.
Thanks again, Paul. I would like to thank all the session speakers for your great contribution to this launch event. And of course, I would like to thank all the participants for engaging with us. I truly hope that this session, this exhibition has provided us with that capacity to draw some sort of attention to environmental issues and how hidden resources flow in our cities through images. I mean, we've just witnessed that the amazing photographs and stories being told can actually play a very important role in demonstrating not only environmental and social issues, but also how hidden resources that are not taken into account in our city planning flow in our cities. And last but not least, I think using platforms such as the Rise Africa that Jahan touched on and projects like Lira and SEMCCA, it is possible for them to just cut through the visual noise. So in conclusion and in closing, I would like to say that we need more projects like the Lira project and SEMCCA project, more platforms like these that will provide that opportunity to showcase the power of environmental photography and showcasing hidden flows in our cities. And of course, promoting that creative communication for climate action and improve equity across Africa and across the globe. Thank you all for your participation.